Welcome, welcome everyone. After this nice intro video by default, I'm Francisco Piccolini, open source manager at OpenNebula Systems, and we are about to start a new webinar in this series of webinar. In this case, we will be talking about OpenNebula 6.10, what's new, and we will see a demo. Like I say, this is a part of the webinar series. We have as part of the content and activities that we have at OpenNebula, we have webinars and tech days, the online conference, which is annual. We participate in events, and we have several other activities. And as you can see, we have many webinars upcoming, more to be announced in a very short period of time. So stay tuned, because we will be having more webinars where we talk about features and new stuff coming for OpenNebula. I'm going to be quick on this brief introduction to OpenNebula, because some of you probably this is the first time that you participate. You can put it in a comment if you want. And what is OpenNebula? We are an open source cloud and edge computing platform where you can handle virtual infrastructure with cloud management, provisioning, and cloud federation. To be clear on this, OpenNebula unlocks the power of a multi-cloud platform by combining edge, public, hosted, and private cloud operations. It helps organizations to easily embrace hybrid and edge computing, allowing them to grow their enterprise cloud on demand with infrastructure resources from third-party public cloud and bare metal providers such as AWS and Equinix Metal. OpenNebula provides one uniform environment that allows to manage and perform operations on resources that are on-premise, hosted, or on the edge. By providing a marketplace with pre-built appliances and the recent Docker Hub integration, OpenNebula will facilitate the deployment and management of applications. OpenNebula manage any application, combine containers with virtual machines, workload in a common and shared environment to offer the best of both worlds. Mature virtualization technology and orchestration of applications containers. As I say before, this is OpenNebula can manage any application on any infrastructure in any cloud. And we bring simplicity, flexibility, customization, cost effectiveness, vendor neutral flexibility. So all of this is what we offer in OpenNebula. And who is using OpenNebula right now? As you can see, we have a large variety of companies, from vendor, telco, CAS, fintech, academia, or gaming. Okay, so take a look to OpenNebula website and check what we have to offer. But without any further ado, and without prolonging too much, and since I have only 5 minutes at the beginning, I'm gonna give a warm welcome, a very warm welcome here in Madrid, from Madrid, to our COO, Tino Vasquez. Here you have it. So, Tino, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Francisco. Thanks for the warm welcome. It's not that warm here in Madrid today, but well, it's not bad either. Okay, so thanks everyone for attending this webinar. I guess if you're here, you are interested in seeing what's new in OpenNebula 6.10, codename Bubble, which was released recently, like a month and a week ago. Okay. But since what's new in 6.10, it's already old news, I also introduced some sneak peek of what we are working in and what will be new in 7.0. Okay. So let me start with doing just a brief recap of what we did or what we are doing in this 2024, right? So we already released a couple of minor versions of OpenNebula, that's 6.8 and 6.10. This 6.10 release is an LTS release, okay? So You can see here in the release cycle that we plan for 2 minor releases each year, and also one each 3 releases. One of them it's LTS. Okay, so LTS means that we maintain it for around 3 years. Okay, whereas normal releases like 6.8 was, it's only maintained for 3 months after the next release is out. Okay, so 6.8 users, I encourage you to upgrade because there's like a month and a half left of support for that release. Okay. We our main release is always OpenNebula, but we also release other smaller projects around. Okay, like one deploy, one apps, and one swap. Okay, I'll talk a bit more about these 3 later on, but so one deploy, it's a way to or it's a framework to deploy different configurations of OpenNebula. Okay, one apps, it's a project to create content for OpenNebula, so to create appliances that are able to run in OpenNebula. And one swap is a conversion tool to migrate VMs automatically from VMware environments to OpenNebula. Okay, and all 3 are open source. You are more than welcome to try them out. Okay, we also released 5 maintenance releases. Okay, so those are for the Enterprise Edition maintenance releases only. Okay, so we were continuing the 6.4 LTS release. Okay, which will be out of support 9 months after 6.10 was out. Okay, so 6.4 still has half a year of support from our side. Okay, and we also advanced on the 6.8 series, which was active until 6.10. Okay, so let me get into what we introduced as novelties in 6.10 bubble. Okay, there was a lot of improvements in the backup area, right? So we've been asked to do stuff like in-place restore, right? Rather than creating a new virtual machine, users wanted to just replace the virtual machine that needs to be restored, okay? We also introduce incremental backups, the ability to restore a single disk from a virtual machine, okay? And also to have different backup locations per data store. Okay, so these combined with the backup jobs introduced in 6.8 makes, I think, flexible and powerful out-of-the-box backup solution for OpenNebula. Okay, we also added a way to attach and detach PCI devices, okay, to virtual machines. So before 6.10, you had to basically create a new virtual machine if you want to add stuff like a new GPU, for instance, but now it's possible to do that on existing virtual machines on demand. Okay. Also, we introduced operations to recover VMs in power off and suspend, so typical VM lifecycle operations that we're missing. We advanced on multi-tenancy with a couple of features. Generic quotas, it's in my opinion, a very interesting feature because you can define quotas, any arbitrary quota, right? So you can create a quota in your OpenNebula platform that identifies, for instance, that you have 10 licenses for a given application, right? So OpenNebula won't let the creation of more than 10 VMs that exhibit that property, that license property. Okay, so you can add new quotas and you can define the usage of those quotas for different groups of users. Okay, and I think it's a very powerful mechanism to ensure that in a multi-tenancy environment, people don't consume more than you want them to. Okay, and then we also added restricted attributes for images and VNets that was only available for virtual machines and virtual machine templates. Okay, so in this way, you can create attributes that are present in your images and virtual networks that regular users cannot modify. Okay, and you can create actions around those restricted attributes or limit access based on those restricted attributes. Okay, also as part of Babel, we added support for newer versions of Linux distributions like Ubuntu 24 and Debian 12. And as a consequence, we also deprecated Ubuntu 20 and Debian 10, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, arguably the biggest change in 6.10 is the new Sunstone web interface, which my colleague Jim will show in a few minutes. Okay, it took us the better part of 3 years to rewrite the Sunstone we all know and love. And yeah, I'll give a few more details in the next slides. Yeah, as I said, we released this on the 2nd of September, so last month. Okay, so this is the Sunstone we all know and love, right? So that's a web interface that was created in the beginning of OpenNebula, so that's almost 15 years ago, right? So at the time, we didn't have this modern web technology, so we had to base it in stuff like jQuery, right? So we were maintaining this web interface with a huge technical depth, okay? So it was getting really hard to maintain and add new functionality at the pace that OpenNebula users demanded features, right? So we took ourselves to create a new version of Sunstone based on more modern web technologies, like basically Node.js and React, okay? And we've been working to create all the functionality existing in the old Sunstone so we can switch, right? So, and 6.10, it's the first OpenNebula version that features a new version of Sunstone, okay, which is served by a backend called FireEdge. That is with the same level of functionality as the previous Sunstone incarnation. Okay, so now we are in a position that we are going to be able not only to add new functionality faster, but we also want to focus on the user experience. So that's going to be our main focus in Sunstone 4.7.0. It's going to be to improve workflows, the way that people use Sunstone. We want to enhance that experience, right? Something that we felt that with the old version, it was too difficult to accomplish. Okay, so just a sneak peek on what's new in OpenNebula 7.0, or what we are working, right? So, yeah, if you remember those projects that I introduced before, right? So we are going to focus on improving the end user experience by improving these side projects, right? So we want to be able to deploy different combinations or different configurations of OpenNebula easier, so we'll improve one deploy. We're also going to rewrite one provision, right? So one provision, it's the tool that allows you to increase the capacity of your OpenNebula cloud by requesting bare metal resources from other cloud and edge providers, okay? So we are currently working on a new version of this tool. Okay, we also want to improve on KVM virtualization. Now that we've removed some support for other hypervisors, we want to keep the best possible experience for people using OpenNebula for virtualized workloads. Okay. Also, we are working on a new scheduler for OpenNebula that is going to give you the ability to introduce AI techniques, right, to distribute, not only distribute, but also redistribute the workload assignation to your physical infrastructure, right? So this is going to be the first OpenNebula scheduler that will allow you to do to have functionality similar to what VMware DRS, for instance, has. Okay. We also want to improve on the One Apps project to better create content for OpenNebula clouds. And as I said before, for FireEdge Sunstone, we are going to focus on user experience, right? So if you want to try out 6.10 Bubble, you can go to that landing page, okay? And there's different ways to try out OpenNebula. Probably the easiest one is to follow our quick start guide, okay? That will walk you through using Mini1 script to quickly install OpenNebula on any of the supported operating systems. Okay, and now, because it's always better to have an image than text, I'm going to ask our colleague Jim to give a brief demo of 6.10 functionality. So thank you, everyone, and welcome, Jim.
Thanks, Dino. So I'm just going to do a quick overview of our new Sunstone interface. So today's demo will be kind of showing off the new kind of user experience and how we built like kind of the new Sunstone to really improve how you do things inside of OpenNebula. For those of people watching who already use the old version of Sunstone, you'll see a huge just graphical improvements in general, and just much more modernized for everything that goes on nowadays. Even here, for example, I have this like light mode interface. It can go to be like dark mode as well. So this is like one of the first improvements of it for modern browsers that support automatically choosing the schema based on what mode kind of your desktop's on as well. So I'll just cover some of the kind of the more generic features. So obviously everything is here that you would expect in the previous version of Sunstone. 6.10 was our first release, but we're kind of up there with all of it's a fully fledged user interface now. Whereas Tino mentioned previously that we've kind of been releasing this bit by bit over the last couple of years. So in order to manage your like clouds inside of OpenNebula, you create these clusters that has groups of hosts, so KVM or hosts, for example, virtual networks, and data stores. And this obviously creates a cluster that you can then kind of divvy up your hardware infrastructure in there. You can assign this to different users inside of your platform through our virtual data centers. VDCs is a really cool feature that kind of allows that multi-tenant isolated environments where you can have a single instance of OpenNebula, for example, and you could have a customer's dedicated hardware in there that only they have access to. You can use VDCs to really isolate that. None of your standard customers can access it. Only a specific users or specific groups you give access to can use it. Saves, gives that kind of single pane of glass view for your users, where in that same example there, user may have their own dedicated hardware and use your kind of shared public cloud resources as well, all from one interface. The users and groups, if you had used OpenNebula previously, you won't see a huge amount of features, but it's really improved how we kind of like show this information. This is a single group we have, for example, and if I go into one of my users here, kind of seeing all the metrics, so such as like the accountancy features, in order to understand how much resources everyone's using, and show back for billing purposes. It's really been improved to go into details, see the costs that are associated, and then you can export this through tooling that we have, or use third-party applications to do kind of billing and everything like that. We have similar authentication drivers as before, where if you want to connect via LDAP or anything like that, you can do that. Tino mentioned about quota controls here, and one thing OpenNebula does really well is for the service provider users who want to create kind of a public cloud where you can kind of set these quotas to make sure that certain users do not use too much resources or limit, kind of anything, you can set these quotas up to really, put that in place. We go into detail on some of the other hosts here. So I've just got a couple of simple hosts, kind of see all the details that you'd want to, even see all the virtual machines that are running on each one, any kind of PCI pass-through devices and everything like that. Kind of moving on to networks. And so I have a simple network that I created earlier here. And OpenNebula allows you to use whatever, if you use an alternative platform and you use Open vSwitch or something like that, you can use this with OpenNebula as well. Along here are all the different options we use. So whether you have just a standard Linux bridge or maybe a VLAN back network, VXLAN, etc., you can use all of these in OpenNebula. And one of the best features here is also that when you create a network, you can actually set the address range. So you can add IP addresses that you want virtual machines to get when they get deployed on one of these virtual networks. If you have a DHCP server in place already, you can just set this to Ethernet mode and it will just pick up based on that DHCP server it's connected to. Something really cool as well is this feature called network templates, where rather than pre-creating networks for your users, you basically create a template that then your users can then provision as and when they need it. People using alternative platforms such as Cloud Director, where you get kind of an isolated environment, it's very similar to the org network features there, where users, even as a user, non-admin user, you get to provision your own networks based on what your cloud admins allow you to do. On the storage side, so we have the data stores as standard. We support lots of different types of storage backends. So whether that's Ceph through LVM or just standard kind of local storage modes. We have some partners who have built some really good integrations in for the storage side as well, such as Limbit and Storepool. And we're really open to other kind of software-defined storage or network or any integration vendors really building integrations into our platform that our users can use. So if anyone has any ideas, feel free to reach out. So the other stuff here, we have a full application marketplace that we include as standard. We allow you to create your own ones as well, but inside of the one that we provide, we create some predefined images. So we have versions of Ubuntu, Debian, and pretty much a lot of operating systems that you'd expect to use, you can find here. And what I find is a lot of our customers use these as the baseline to create their virtual machines off of templates from our repository. And then you can kind of customize it by installing your own applications and then repurpose that virtual machine as a template that you can then offer to your end users. Kind of going into these templates, I've got a couple of virtual machine templates here. I'll just go into this Alpine one. And really the VM template section here is really where you define everything that you want to do, from how much memory or CPU is assigned by default. You can allow, for example, you could set a range. So when your users deploy a virtual machine, they get a range slider of how much RAM they want to give a virtual machine, or even a list or something like, etc. like that. So some really good functionality here. For the service providers, you can kind of set these prices as well, which OpenNebula uses to calculate and then export graphs and metrics like that. Just move this back to how it was before. Okay, so once you kind of deploy or once you set up a virtual template, for example, VM template, you can then provision that as a virtual machine. So here's a couple of ones that I provisioned earlier today. Within the virtual server, you can kind of see all the graphs and metrics, kind of the costs that are involved. I know it's not on that one, but on VM2, we have some costs associated with that. So we can see this is what will be exported. Can see all the metrics, so the real CPU and memory usage, any kind of monitoring or additional attributes that you can set yourself and kind of own key value pair to use that for tracking or monitoring or anything like that. I won't go through every single one of these options, but again, you want to attach another disk, even if it's just a blank disk, you can see all the kind of IO and read information. Same thing for networks. Knew it was going to do that, but here's going into the network. See all the kind of transfer information. You can set security groups and everything like that. Depending on your architecture, you can use OpenNebula to take snapshots, backups. You set that up. We mentioned earlier about we've made a lot of improvements to our backup system, and we're really looking for new vendors to come in and integrate into OpenNebula to existing backup platforms for that. So we're really interested in any feedback from our users and anything like that in terms of backup. We have our own ones with just using kind of standard rsync and integration with an open source backup solution called Restic. But we're looking into these commercial offerings as well, and we have partnerships with a lot of vendors out there. So please feel free to reach out to us. And see all the history of virtual machines, and we have a really good scheduled actions system in OpenNebula where you can, if you wanted to reboot a virtual machine periodically, on the 1st of the month or at 3 a.m. every Tuesday or something like that, you can set that up. You can set that up in the template as well. And OpenNebula supports all of the standard kind of functionality you would expect with migrating, live migrating, backing up, stop, start, reboot, and everything like that. Easily open virtual machine console, so you can kind of view the virtual machine from there. There's a ton more functionality, and I know we don't have so much time today, but if anyone wants a more detailed demo or customized demo for your own use case, please feel free to reach out to us, and we're more than happy to set something up, and we can do it specifically for for your own use cases and how you would use it yourself. So pretty much it from me, and I'll hand over to Michael now, where we can kind of go into some of the commercials of OpenNebula.
Well, thank you, Jim. Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Abdu. I'm the account manager here at OpenNebula Systems. So I just wanted to quickly take a few moments before we wrap up and open things up for a short Q&A session, just to give you a look into what we offer at the enterprise level, right? So you're obviously aware OpenNebula is an open source solution. The community edition is available for download and use at our website. However, what we do is we provide our OpenNebula subscriptions, and those are basically the vehicles that encapsulate a set of enterprise benefits for organizations to really run OpenNebula at the enterprise level. Okay, our subscription provides benefits that include, first, giving you access to the enterprise edition. So the enterprise edition of OpenNebula is a more hardened version of OpenNebula. So you will have access to subsequent maintenance releases that we build and release to enterprise customers. They come with minor enhancements, bug fixes, and patches. And the subscription also provides access to our enterprise support. Okay, so we have varying levels of our subscriptions, which provide SLA-based support at different SLA, established SLAs, right? So whether you need 9-to-5 SLAs or 24/7, our support team is available to address issues, work with you on handling quick workarounds and really addressing any questions about the software that you may have. Okay. We also have several professional services that we make available. So if you're looking for help in deploying your OpenNebula cloud, we have a cloud deployment service, which is one where we we'll work with you to come up with a design, verify your environment, and actually deploy the cloud for you. We have services like upgrade services, training, generic consulting and engineering services, right? So we may help you on certain initiatives that you have that's beyond just enterprise support. And we also have actually a recent professional service that we've released, which is a VMware migration service. So if you happen to be running VMware and you're looking to migrate to an OpenNebula platform with KVM, we have a service where our professional services team will work with you to really migrate your VMware application into OpenNebula with KVM. Okay. We also provide access to our knowledge base as well, which has documented best practices, step-by-step guides, and other use cases for you guys to be able to review. So if you have any questions, I'm going to leave it at that. If you're interested in learning more about our subscriptions, or you want to reach out and discuss the opportunities, reach out to me directly, or you can send an email to sales@opennebula.io. So yeah, I think Fran, we can open up the Q&A.
Yeah, sorry. Like we have a couple of questions, but it has been already replied on the chat. Right. As I always like to comment, if you have any question, any doubt, if you are using the community edition, and if you need to know more, cite the documentation that it's very complete. We have the forum where you can ask any question you might have. And yeah, basically a quick comment that next week we will have another webinar also with Michael and Jim about cloud service providers, and we are having sorry, and we are having another training session in November. So stay tuned for this. Yeah, and if you need to know something else, feel free to send us an email or contact us through the different channels that we have. Follow our social media and LinkedIn and Twitter or X, wherever it calls now. And yeah, feel free to pass through the forum and ask your questions. I think we're done today. Happy to see many people watching this webinar. Hope to see you next week on the Cloud Service Provider webinar. In the 13th of November, we have the training session, which is basically OpenNebula operations, how to start using OpenNebula. And on the 20th of November, we will have a new webinar talking about how to migrate from VMware to OpenNebula. So stay tuned, watch or follow our social networks, and register for the next webinars. Remember that these series are for free, and everyone is welcome to participate. So thanks everyone again. Thanks to Tino, thanks to Jim, thanks to Michael for participating in this webinar, and see you next week on the 20th. Bye-bye.